Welcome, everyone, to Weaving New Paths. I'm your host, Grandmother Sharon Raji Maynard. Here we meet the dreamers and builders who followed an inner spark and brought new possibilities into form. Their stories remind us that purpose begins as a whisper and grows as we then follow it. So let's step into today's conversation with Victoria Savage. Hi, Victoria. I'm so glad to be with you today.
Hey, Sharon, thank you so much. It's lovely to see you.
What I'm going to do, I am just going to have you speak to and tell us a little bit about how your life brought you to today. And then we'll move into where you're going from here. But what brought you to today? Who is Victoria Savage?
Uh, you know, it started a very long time ago. Physically, I think of age 4 when I started channeling, but then I realized I came in channeling a specific angel. Didn't
Mm,
even know the name till, I don't know, 12 years ago when I asked. I knew stuff would come through me. And I put myself on a spiritual path at age 4 to gain a spiritual foundation. Got myself to church anytime I could. And I lived in many, many houses before age 9, like 17 different places. And so I saw different religions, different churches, different people. So there was never there's just one way feeling. And after age 9, I went to 2 churches, then to Oral Roberts University. It was my life, it was who I was. At 24, I had a vision and I went, oh, you know what, God? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just gonna start walking because what I want is to be used by you in life. And I'm gonna trust you're gonna open the doors you want me to go through. You're gonna shut the ones you don't. That's how you and I are gonna walk because it was too much of the, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I was praying that day about whether to go to Reno that day or not. And I thought, when I saw the vision, I went, "Yeah, you probably don't really care whether I go to Reno today or not. Probably fine with you if I do, fine with you if I don't. I'm not doing this anymore." And I never went back to church. I have
mm,
no religious trauma. It was all my volition. I was the spiritual leader of my family. And then fast forward, I got married not long after that, became a nurse, well, became a mother and then became a nurse, which was the truest vocation for me there could be. It was so perfect until the boxes got too small and it was time for me to step out of that. I came in to my own business as case management. Again, it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And it wasn't until Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief just triggered in me. That is how woo woo meets science. It's not just a faith based choice, it is fact. We are nothing but energy, including our spirit. And because we're nothing but energy, that's where our healing begins. And traditional medicine does lovely, wonderful things, as you well know. But we start where the problem ends, or, the last place it shows up. And so I was guided into and prompted by other nurses to take these modalities of healing. And they all said essentially at some point, one was very physical modality called neurointegration, which is powerful healing. Another one is quantum touch, Reike, and Theta. And at some point, all of them said the power of your intention will carry you through, even if you don't do the process quite right. And I went, my intention is going to affect their physical body, and that was the very first thing I learned, was very physical, and I just filed it, and that became that just neon light for me. I am incredibly powerful in my intention. I practiced it on myself in healing or preventing. Actually, I don't get sick anymore. If I feel a hint, I go into my mantra and choice. And so, really, and what came earlier this morning, and as we were in our quiet time beginning this, was truly, I'm a healer of healers.
mm.
Because healers are we're so powerful, and we made such big choices to come into this world carrying a load of energy, either from our past lives or our ancestors, that are weighing us down. And I think healers, way showers, channels, psychics, all of us carry a whole lot more than the others. And so that's a lot of who come to me are those that understand that they do have these gifts, but feel hampered because the weight of the energies weighing on them. And so I channel angels, I channel many of them. In fact, as we were in quiet time, Metatron came on strong. And so Metatron is here with us, and I channel them a lot. And yet I don't consider them my main guide, my main channel. But they are with me a lot. And I call on them a great deal for my family, really, in protection of their sacred geometry, which is what Metatron is a lot about. So that's in brief.
Yeah, it's very condensed. What's interesting to me is at age 4, you had a sense of spiritual connection and awareness of spiritual connection.
And
And
a hunger.
and that's very and you owned it. You didn't explain it or take it away. And it then moved you to look into what in the world is spiritual connection, which were churches.
Yeah, my grandmother never, she was my rock. I mean, she was the one who never let me down in life. And I was with her on and off through the first 9 years and then summer times after that. But she read her Bible every day with her daily bread. My grandmother never went to church, never once. My mom would take me to church and then church people would pick me up. Or at age 4, I would put on all my best slips because we didn't have clean clothes and I'd walk to church and then was escorted out. And I remember the sense of indignance of walking home going, that was not right. I was covered. I was decent. I understood that.
Yeah.
I understand now that the very kind woman probably was protecting me from the other kids because I had already been to church. I knew that when she walked up to me, I thought, oh, maybe I'm supposed to be in children's church. And then
Mm.
she walked me and who I thought were my stepsisters, who were not, but out the door and we walked home. But
Oh.
yeah, I was guided. I was channeling Archangel Uriel then and had the gift of wisdom. I understood that very
Mm.
young too. Not in those words, but I knew I understood things that I was too young to understand.
Mhm.
And later realized it was the gift of wisdom.
It's interesting because it's like often those of us who are sensitive, which is pretty much everyone, we're all sensitive or possible to sensitivity, that we have that knowing and looking back, we understand.
Yeah. Well, hindsight.
Exactly. It's like and so you in exploring and seeking and really hunger for what in the world might match you, you tasted a lot of different models, a lot of different systems, and within yourself, which is like these are important, I think, for us to remember. You never put it into competition with one another. This is better than that is better. This is right, and this. You just were tasting until you got to a point where you said, "That's not how I want to do it anymore."
Yeah, I don't think, well, we're taught competition,
Yeah,
and of
yeah,
course, spiritually in my little world, I had nothing competing with me and all these different, I had the one church where I was escorted out. I remember it was very wood and glass and kind of hard. It didn't have that warmth. And then fast forward about a year and a half, I guess, we had moved to Kansas. Somehow I ended up in this kind of rickety, old, dingy church. And we were in children's church downstairs. And there was this woman in the front row, and she was fairly homely. And I remember thinking, oh, I hope she's not my teacher because, I liked pretty. And she was my teacher, and I fell in love with that woman. She was kind, and I remember at 6, that's again that gift of wisdom going, I shouldn't be judging by the way people look because look at this woman who I love now, and I thought I didn't want her as a teacher. And so the same with the kind of churches, the grandiose ones, the humble ones. Um, One of the humblest at age, I think 15, because I was driving, I guess I was 16. Uh, I left one church because all they wanted to do was tell me why all the other religions were bad. And I just went, that's not why I come. And so then I went to interdenominational. Towards the end, I started getting that message again,
Mm,
that I was, ready to leave. And then I went to Oral Roberts University, and that was just an incredible adventure. I went a year, was out a year, and went a year, but didn't really have the direction that I, was going to go in. And so I didn't go back.
mm.
And then finished 15 years, well, 17 years later, finished my nursing degree.
Uh-huh. The what would you say to our listeners that are maybe doubting their wisdom? Because yours, I mean, yours is so solidly there from young. Often we don't have that. The rest of us sisters don't have it. And so when it starts to bubble up, what is it that you would say in that bubbling up?
First, I ask often, I mean, and I was given at some point the observer perspective in life, which really helps us to draw out of us the forest and the trees thing, where we can doubt what we see because we're above, kind of getting a more whole picture. But when I work with people, when I do energy healing or work with them, intuitive sessions, I teach them, particularly in the healing work, because we're going to identify energies that are present and we're going to pull and release them and replace them. I teach them to muscle test themselves in one way or the other, whether it's a sway test. I
Mm,
like to get them to their hands because it's quicker.
mm,
And if they absolutely cannot, some of them just do not move at all. I put them on the table, which I learned with neurointegration, and I will talk with the alignment of their ankles. So their brain isn't involved at all. But if they can do the muscle testing, that's how we get the answers. And then I encourage them to play with it, because that it begins to increase their trust of themselves in the
mm,
connection and being able to get the answers, because the answers come immediately.
mm.
And pretty much for most of us, they come in our mind, and then we go, oh, I just made that up.
Exactly.
It's like I tell people, I've never had a burning bush talk to me. Never. I've never had pictures speak to me. My answers come in my head.
Hmm. Exactly. You know, that's a process. I would call it vetting, teaching a way for your people to discern. And then when
Discernment.
they discern and they learn to trust themselves because there's a discernment factor in it. And I think
Yeah.
that's really an important aspect. When it's unseen energy coming in some kind of unseen form, a lot of us have had the tendency, and I'm speaking from my own experience with myself and others, to say, oh, either it's woo woo and it's makeup, or, oh my gosh, I'm just going to bow down and don't vet what that is, if that energy is really good for you in that moment. So you teach processes to get beyond the mind into a place where there is a vetting of yes and no, this is good for you. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, self-trust, because then it's like, okay, and feel into, of course, my strongest gift is clairsentience. I'm feeling all the time. I'm going to ask everybody how they feel about anything. And so feel into, how does this feel inside you? Or, my second strongest gift is claircognizance, which for me is like gears clunking into place when the answer is correct. And so it's like using their own abilities to vet, how does this feel inside you? I used to tell my girlfriends when I was young, bring your boyfriend by. I can tell you in a heartbeat whether he's a jerk or whether he's not. I thought it had to do with how I came in, which it may well have. I I have a book pretty much started about the energy of the unwanted pregnancy and
Mm,
how we come in differently than the one that's anticipated and excited and all of that. And we tend to come in more on high
mm,
because we've got to read the room. Essentially, we've got to know who's safe for us, who isn't. Even, and I was never abused. I was definitely unwanted, and I wouldn't have wanted me either, given my mother's situation. And
Correct.
so knowing that, it was like, oh yeah, I had to come in because I came in alone essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and having to quote unquote care for myself. Thankfully my grandmother was there, and again was a place for me to return to. So um, that knowingness and trusting, that's why the sway test is helpful, because your
Mm-hmm.
body's telling you. And if you can clue into, well, how does this feel inside me, and where am I feeling it? My stomach, my heart, my head. Am I hearing answers as I do this muscle testing? So maybe clairaudience is their gift. I teach classes every semester for community ed on exploring your spiritual energetic power, because then it talks about all the different gifts and the different energy systems and how we play with them. And I teach them in the class muscle testing.
Yeah.
And, we go from the sway test to the hands, and we'll see who can use their hands, and then encourage them to don't discard this, play with it, use it in the grocery store, get
Yeah.
yourself a parking place, that kind of thing. And also that sometimes I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm not right. And you have to let that go, because that doesn't mean you aren't all that and a bag of chips, because you are. We are human, and we're
Yeah.
not always going to be right.
Yeah. That exploring as you did when you were young, and I think that you're always an explorer. You aren't going to like, this is a what I'm, and that's why I'm going to be stuck. There's an explorer that, and then you have a platform that you've vetted that fits within what you already know works. And I find it interesting that you, at some point, and I think several points, if I remember listening and hearing you correctly, that you said, for example, to God, which is our power over, which is, people use it for power over. I've got to please and listen. You basically said, I've had this experience. I know myself, and therefore, this is how I'm going to use my gifts, and I will partner with you in this way. You designed with your gifts, with what was exciting to you, you designed how to walk forward in life. That what I'm hearing?
Yeah, there was a bit of arrogance in that, but it was also that
Totally.
connection, yeah, of understanding that no, we are partnering here. I'm not, begging God for every answer, although I talk to them all the time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I teach the mantra that I feel in that walk that I chose is the easiest way to walk through the world, which is I'm open, I'm willing, I'm ready. Guide me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then my angels, guides, companions, tag collective, the home team can come in and just tap me on the shoulder occasionally, going, you might want to look up now, because the answer that you were looking for is right in front of you, or the
Yeah.
situation, possibility. And it is their willingness. But, what prayer is giving him permission,
Mm-hmm.
because we designed what we wanted to learn and grow with and experience. How it comes about is what life is, how
Mm-hmm.
difficult it is, how easy it is, and how we can shift things. But we are going to learn what we wanted in this lifetime and
Mm-hmm.
experience things that we desired to experience. It is how how arduous it is, how difficult it can be, that we actually have the control. That's where I don't like to use the word control, mainly because that's the message I've received for 12 years is need to give
Yeah.
up control. It's
Oh.
like, okay, I'll take charge, meaning I will row this boat. I
Yeah.
will allow the steering, because I've already put that in motion as to
Exactly.
where I wanted to go. It is the how that is my business in creating. Yeah, I often say the how isn't my business, but I already set it up. It is what is my part now to
Mm-hmm.
create the ease that I desire, the physicality that I desire moving forward, the life and experiences I desire. What
Mm-hmm.
is my part in this?
Mm-hmm.
And what do I have to learn here? When it's rough, that's where I go first. What did I bring
Right,
this
right.
for?
And I think it's another thing that's really important is I find that I'm a little hesitant when I hear other people just out there in the world say, let go and let God. because I think there is an element of resignation and lack of self responsibility and design with that statement in some cases. And I think that when you, like you said, you've signed, this is where I want to go. Now, how do I get there? You're very clear who you are, where you want to go, how you want to interact. You put that all in place. Then you can say, let go, and that greater intelligent feel, help me get there. We're going to now work together. And that's a very different platform from which to come from when you say, let go and trust that greater intelligence is there with you and for you, because you've already set a direction, a type of interaction, and how you want to work, who you want to work. Really good. Now,
And I take it back regularly. I got to tell, I mean, I
yeah,
will, I'll go, are you kidding me? Really? Something will happen. And it's like, I can't. And then and I tell people, I cuss God out. And then it's like, then I get another glimpse of how I was being moved towards what I wanted.
Earth one
And
is
then go,
that's right.
oh, yeah, sorry, God. I mean, I call it God. I'm pretty sure they do not care what
No,
we
they
call
don't
it.
care. Well,
Because,
we designate. Yeah, we each can designate whatever any word is for us, and you
yeah,
know what that means to you.
yeah.
Here's a question as we come to a close. What is it that's drawing you now? What's expansive that you'd like us to know about? And then in that, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, I do energy work, energy healing, and I have those sessions. I've been doing those sessions for years. Now I'm adding intuitive guidance in it because
Oh, I love it.
people don't always need quote unquote healing, or they don't know that they do or whether they do. But
Yes.
I'm not a medium. I am a channel, and I'm not a trance channel. I'm totally there. Although, I do card readings and all of that. And once I'm done, it's like, don't ask me what I told you because I can't tell you that. But I mean, maybe right after I could give you some insight, but in 5 minutes, it's like, oh, I have no idea what the cards were or whatever. But the intuitive guidance is that channel for what it is you need right now to know. And so I have those sessions up on my website. My website is Solar Power, which is SOULER, because that is that is what I teach, is the power of our soul and how to use our energetic spiritual power to shift what in life to what we desire, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, relational, financial. We have to shift because we're in this, our words are creating, our thoughts are creating, our beliefs are creating. And until you own that, then you're praying to that God and begging for them to, that is a victim stance, believing that you don't have any power here, where you have all the power in the energy, which is our spirit of who we are. And so that is what, I offer classes. I have a retreat coming up in September in Ireland, September of 2026. They're called Beyond Healing, and they're incredible intensives. And we're going to have 2 days in that retreat where we play a bit and visit some sacred sites or some more touristy things. But these are intense times, and I'm intense. I rarely have a light conversation with anybody because I desire to know them, and I am good at peeling back layers without them knowing that I'm peeling layers. I just want to know people. I want to help people. I want to help people heal themselves because, again, I don't do the healing, but I can bring it through once we know what needs healed. So solarpower.net
Yeah.
is my website. And then there's all the different sessions I do. I also, for my energy healing, have adopted a gifting economy where people can choose different price points, because it's important, especially now, that people start to release these volumes of energy we brought in so we can see the forest for the tree. We're not in the trees so much.
Yes.
We can really begin to heal ourselves. And that's what I teach people.
I love that. I love it. First of all, that you know what your gifts are. You're applying those gifts, and you're also you're also teaching others to step up what is it they're all about, and how to begin bringing that to the surface, and breaking the hold that the economy has had to keep us trapped, and especially women trapped. I totally am in support of the new economy structure that you've put into your work. It's a major contribution to making a difference in the world. You're teaching your economy, and I think the retreat sounds really exciting. So, listeners, if that sounds exciting to you, I think it would be.
There's such an intense way to work. And then you have this collective energy of all these people putting their energy into you, even if you're not, in the center being healed. When you're there to be healed, you are being healed. And things are being released, and wisdom is being gained, and fun is being had. We laugh a lot at these retreats.
Yeah, through COVID, my goodness, thank goodness for Zoom. And even now, thank goodness for Zoom. And it's so wonderful that we can now bring back our interaction personally and on the ground. So, well,
Yeah.
thank you, Victoria, for joining us on Weaving New Paths. And to our
Sharon, thank you.
yeah, and to our listeners, today's conversation, I hope, sparked something true and alive within you. Be sure to explore our guest's beautiful work. That website will be also with this conversation. So may Victoria's words, her share, lift and encourage you through your days ahead. Many
Thank you, Sharon.
bye.
Bye bye.